In the early 1950s, the United States Air Force confronted a pressing challenge. Soviet bombers were accelerating, leaving American interceptors trailing in their wake. To maintain air superiority, the Air Force sought an innovative Solution 1, capable of reaching altitudes of 60,000 feet in under 2 minutes and intercepting any aircraft adorned with a red star. The Air Force turned to Lockheed, and Lockheed enlisted the expertise of Kelly Johnson, the head of a clandestine division known as Skunk Works. Johnson was no stranger to groundbreaking aviation design. He had previously developed the P-38, Lightning, and the first American jet fighter. However, this particular request was unlike any other. The Air Force didn't merely want a fighter jet. They envisioned a missile with a pilot inside. Johnson's approach was elegantly straightforward. Harness the most powerful engine available, encase it in the lightest, most compact airframe that could accommodate a pilot, and strip away all unnecessary components to maximize speed. This meant sacrificing comfort and excess for sheer velocity. The outcome of this radical design philosophy was the F-104 Starfighter. Upon its initial unveiling, the aircraft was unprecedented. Its fuselage was so slender that the wings resembled razor blades, affixed to a pencil-like body. The wings, measuring just 7.5 feet from root to tip, were thinner than a standard dinner plate at their thickest point. To ensure safety, ground crews had to wear protective gear to avoid cuts while servicing the aircraft. On March 4, 1954, the first prototype soared from Edwards Air Force Base. It did not merely fly. It roared through the skies, climbing at an unparalleled rate and achieving speeds that left accompanying chase planes struggling to keep pace. Within months, the F-104 established both world speed and altitude records, fulfilling the Air Force's vision of a missile with a man in it. However, as the F-104 set records, a sobering reality began to surface. The very characteristics that contributed to its incredible speed also rendered it unforgiving. Pilots who took to its cockpit soon discovered the challenges that accompanied such a high-performance aircraft, illustrating the complex balance between innovation and safety in aviation history. The F-104 Starfighter had already proven it could fly faster than anything in the sky. But the Air Force wanted more. They wanted to know exactly where the limit was. In 1959, they selected test pilot Joe Jordan to find it. Jordan was not a celebrity pilot. He was an engineer's test pilot, methodical, precise, and utterly fearless. On a clear morning at Edwards Air Force Base, he climbed into the cockpit of an F-104C and prepared to do something no American pilot had ever done: break the world altitude record. The plan was deceptively simple. Light the afterburner, point the nose straight up, and keep climbing until the aircraft could climb no more. Jordan taxied to the runway, pushed the throttle forward, and released the brakes. The afterburner ignited with a roar that shook the desert floor. The Starfighter lifted off and immediately pitched upward at an angle no conventional aircraft could sustain. It climbed past 30,000 feet, where the air begins to thin and the sky shifts from pale blue to a deeper, darker shade. Past 60,000 feet, where the temperature plummets and most jet engines begin to suffocate. The Starfighter kept climbing, past 90,000 feet, where the horizon bends into a visible curve and the sky turns nearly black even at midday. At 103,395 feet, more than 19 miles above the surface of the Earth, Jordan leveled off. He had pushed the F-104 higher than any operational jet had ever flown. The record he set that day would stand for years. But the altitude record was only one half of what made the Starfighter extraordinary. In level flight, the F-104 could sustain Mach 2.2, that is more than 2,400 kilometers per hour, faster than a rifle bullet. It was the first American aircraft ever to hold both the world speed record and the world altitude record at the same time. No other jet on Earth could touch it. The Air Force had exactly what it asked for: a missile with a man in it. But as the applause faded and the trophies were handed out, a quieter conversation was beginning in squadron ready rooms around the world. Because the same razor-sharp aerodynamics that made the Starfighter untouchable in a straight line made it deeply, lethally unforgiving in almost every other situation. The pilots who flew it were already learning that this machine demanded a price, and that price was about to become terrifyingly clear. The F-104 Starfighter never fought the war it was designed for. It never intercepted Soviet bombers over the frozen Arctic. It never fired its weapons in a Cold War that turned hot. Yet despite the controversy, despite the losses, despite the nickname that followed it everywhere, the Starfighter served longer than almost anyone expected. The Italian Air Force flew the F-104 until 2004, nearly 50 years after its first flight. Think about that. A jet designed in the early 1950s built to counter a threat that no longer existed, was still operational in the 21st century. Generations of Italian pilots trained in its cockpit. They learned its demands, they respected its power, and they understood its risks better than anyone. NASA used the F-104 to train astronauts and to test high-speed aerodynamics at the very edge of the atmosphere. The same razor wings that made it lethal at low altitude made it perfect for pushing the boundaries of human knowledge at high altitude. The Starfighter taught the world hard lessons about supersonic flight, about the limits of the human body under extreme G-forces, and about the cost of pushing technology too far, too fast. Today, a handful of Starfighters survive in museums and private collections around the world. Their razor wings are still sharp. Their fuselages still gleam under the hangar lights. If you walk up to one and place your hand on its fuselage, you are touching a machine that climbed higher than the sky, that flew faster than a bullet, that killed more of its own pilots than any enemy ever did. It is a monument to an era when aviation moved faster than caution, when engineers built aircraft that could outrun their own shadows, and when pilots climbed into cockpits knowing that every single flight might be their last. The missile with a man in it, the flying coffin, the Widowmaker, the Starfighter. Its legacy is not written in the record books alone. It is written in the instincts of every fighter pilot who ever pushed the throttle forward and felt the afterburner kick in. Some machines are remembered for what they achieved. The F-104 Starfighter is remembered for what it demanded, and for the men who were willing to give it. For all its speed and altitude records, the F-104 Starfighter harbored a dark secret that pilots would learn to fear. The same razor-sharp aerodynamics that made it untouchable in a straight line made it deeply unforgiving when things went wrong. The wings were so thin, so optimized for supersonic flight, that they generated almost no lift at low speed. Landing the Starfighter was not a gentle descent. It was a controlled crash at 240 kilometers per hour. If a pilot misjudged the approach by even a few knots, the aircraft would stall without warning and drop like a stone. And if the engine failed below 10,000 feet, the pilot had only one option: the ejection seat. But this was no ordinary ejection seat. In order to clear the T-tail, which sat directly behind the cockpit, the seat fired downward, straight toward the ground. At high altitude, this design worked. At low altitude, it was a death sentence. Over its service life, the F-104 would claim the lives of hundreds of pilots. Germany suffered the worst losses of any operator. The Luftwaffe purchased more than 900 Starfighters and flew them extensively in the turbulent weather of Northern Europe. Low-level terrain following missions, poor visibility, and a single engine that left zero margin for error proved a lethal combination. 292 German aircraft were destroyed. 116 pilots were killed. The German press called it the Fliegender Sarg, the flying coffin. Ground crews had an even darker nickname, Widowmaker, the Widowmaker. The American pilots, who flew the F-104, understood the risk every time they climbed into the cockpit. Yet despite the staggering losses, despite the investigations and the public outrage, the Starfighter remained in service for decades. Because when everything worked, when the weather was clear, the engine was strong, and the pilot was sharp, nothing in the sky could touch it. It was a machine that demanded perfection, and for those who could deliver it, the Starfighter gave back something no other jet could: pure, unmatched speed. Thank you for watching. If you want to see the next documentary in the Century series, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Next up, the F-105 Thunderchief, the largest single-engine fighter ever built. A jet that flew 75% of all strike missions over Vietnam. And a story that deserves to be told. See you there.